Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, we will talk about the advantages and the problems of the 15-minute city. Stick with us until the end. You don't want to miss this. Chris, Edmonton's public consultation on a new district zoning plan, which promotes a 15-minute city concept, has faced mixed reaction. The urban plan aims to create 15 districts where essential services and amenities are accessible within a 15-minute walk or transit ride. This zoning strategy intends to densify housing and commercial areas in anticipation of a population growth of 2 million. While some residents supported the idea or suggested amendments, others expressed concerns, including some conspiracy theories that claim the 15-minute cities will restrict movement or car usage. City councillors emphasized the need to clarify the plan's focus on land use and urban development, countering the misconceptions. So my first question to you is, have you heard of this 15-minute city conspiracy, or this is the first time?
Yeah, well, you know what? Fairly new to that. Definitely fairly new to that. But really interesting when you start delving into it a little bit. Researching this whole sector a little bit, the whole 15-minute. Man, I can tell you, I can see where some of these conspiracy theories could come from this. Some of the stuff that's out there is kind of like, wow. It's straight from a utopian turned dystopian movie. It's very George Orwellian. It's fascinating. It's cool. It's interesting. I'm kind of pumped about some of the prospects of it, but I could definitely see where some of the people are a little bit freaked out by this for sure. What do you think?
Well, it's true that the book 1984 by George Orwell explains some things that can happen if we don't watch out, if we're not aware of things that happens in the world. So that warning, I believe, was the base of this conspiracy theory. And what I believe about the 15-minute city is that there's very good idea. So it is a good idea. I can tell you that, but it can take away our freedoms, because the 15-minute city basically is that you will have some areas like districts, called districts, like I don't know if you saw the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I was going to say the districts. I don't know if necessarily the greatest.
It's the same. They have districts. In one district they have oil. In one district they have agriculture. In one district they have manufacturers. Mm-hmm. So it's. I believe that the movie helped a little bit with this, and we will see. We will see, because Edmonton is pretty going to do this. Like, this is not a plan to has already been voted on, and it's rolling. That's the plan we have in Edmonton. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, and you know what? I guess maybe that deems a little bit of clarification as well. We've had master planned communities for a while, and they've always been a very good idea. But it's a bit of a spectrum, right? Like, we're talking 15-minute cities.
Yep.
Not communities, of which you've got 200 here in Calgary, I believe 180 or so in Edmonton. Like, these are cities. So you've got, like, what is it? 15 different sectors.
Yep.
Within the entire city. Yeah, that's it. on that spectrum, that's pretty far over to the one side.
Yeah.
That's master plan on steroids.
Exactly. And I don't understand why exactly do they have to do 15 districts, like districts. But what they explain is that they want to do this urban plan focuses on giving residents access to essential services within 15 minutes walk. Okay, that's the goal of them, and that is also because of the climate change, probably.
Yeah.
So, proposal include dividing the city into 15 districts in Edmonton, with increased housing and commercial density, anticipating a population of 2 million, which we talked about. And the confusion and frustration of the public concerns the replacing. Okay, so it concerns why do this plan replaces individual neighborhood plans, some of which are decades old, which is your question. Exactly. Why we don't keep it like neighborhoods, and build in those instead of completely changing the way they will do the planning, municipal planning. And see, the council passed a second reading of the district policy in a 10-2 vote. And along with an amendment noting that the plans would not restrict the movement of Edmontonians. Okay? Because one of the concerns is that this 15-minute cities or districts will restrict the movement of people. So I'll give you an example. You will have citizens that can only walk or live in one district. And that will be probably done with the social credit. So with Big Brother cameras, the cell phones for the GPS, probably a chip in your hand, and will be controlled by AI. So as soon as you get out of that city, if you're not allowed to, then you will get a penalty on your social score. And with that, then you'll not be able to buy, let's say, a car or meat or.
Now, I assume that's not in the Edmonton plans that were put forth by City Council.
No, they are not. It's true. I'm talking about why do people think or talk about the conspiracy theory?
Yeah,
and where this can be, where this can go in the future. And so there are people that highlight the challenge of countering misinformation, which probably there is some misinformation on that, and they want to encourage respectful dialogue about this policy. Also, the environmental concerns were raised, particularly regarding potential impacts on wildlife, such birds. I don't know exactly why, but this is what, the meeting, what they did. And I would like to talk about not only the Edmonton's 15 minutes city plan, but also about the other smart cities. But before going there, I just want to point this. Rutherford pointed to the Charter of Rights of Freedom, as did Ashley Salvador, when they referred to existing protection of assembly, movement, and expression. So I just want to finish with that. Edmonton City Hall and the councillors and the mayor have done an amendment that this plan will not restrict the freedom of movement.
Well, and you know what? I think making things more convenient is not an automatic. Doing things one way does not automatically lead to the other. You may not have to leave. You may choose to stick around, but I don't think that means that anybody's going to be forcing you to. Although my understanding of the plans is that there is a limited number of ways in and out of each community. So you do, you know, there is, I guess, a bit of unintentional segregation from one community to the next. Our existing communities, for the most part, have that as well, though there's, limited ways in and out. You've just got much larger communities then. So I don't quite understand how all of this fits together in a realistic and reasonable way, though, that isn't, like a small community on the moon. Like, how do we take existing, very spread out cities and implement something like this? We've got one here in Calgary, Seton. I used to live in Seton. Seton was about a 15-minute walk from a major hospital. We had bars, restaurants. We had one of the best theaters in the whole city, in my opinion. It was pretty fantastic. It had its pluses, it had its minuses. I'll tell you right now, we didn't stay in that little community for everything. We left that community a lot. And I imagine most of these other spots, unless you're looking at like the downtown core, would be as well. What I will say on that, though, is, we didn't choose to live there forever, and we would not. And we've actually talked about it quite often. We would not choose to live there for long periods of time. I have a buyer who was looking fairly recently who made the same comment. Much rather go to the neighboring neighborhood because this is very densely populated. You can't get everything within 15-minute walk of anything unless you're very dense population.
Yeah.
That might be appealing to some, but it's not going to be to others. So that's going to be a tough one to force through in many ways, although I'm all for the convenience for sure.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I was watching looking at the other smart cities. So, like we said, Edmonton is not the only one. Is because that it's a lot of people talk about Edmonton in Canada because this is like the first 15-minute city plan, and also because we live in Alberta. No. But there are smart cities on the horizon as well, and some of them are in. So one of them, the major project, is the line in Saudi Arabia that we're gonna look at it.
Unbelievably cool, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, eh?
It's crazy.
And then we got the Toyota Woven City in Japan and Net City in China. Okay, which are all part of a movement set to redefine how buildings are designed, managed, and valued. Okay, so basically this is what we talk about, right? So green buildings and sustainable designs and eco-friendly features not only reduce operational costs, but also align with the growing emphasis on environmental responsibility. So I believe that this comes from the climate movement, religion. I don't know how to call that.
Yeah, fair.
Fair enough. Yeah, I believe that's how they started. So less pollution, less cars, less electricity, less oil and gas. So stay there and you walk on your feet or your e-bikes. That's it. And I encourage people to go see this on Forbes, this article, if you want to know more about the smartest cities on the horizon. So let's go see the line. So this is Saudi Arabia biggest project, right? So it is a 105-mile long city of the future, but it's not, not even started yet.
Yeah. But think about that too. 105 miles. What's the distance from Calgary to Edmonton?
It's probably 150.
Yeah, right. That's a whole city between. That's crazy.
It's crazy. So It was built as a glass-walled city of the future. And see, to transition Saudi Arabia away from oil dependency. We just said that before we were looking at this. And so 105 miles, 170 kilometers, is expected to reach just 1.5 miles by 2030. You understand? So there's a long way from that 105. But this project is supposed to cost more than $1 trillion. That's amazing. That's huge.
More money than I got in the bank, I'll tell you that right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Not too much, but a little bit.
But the premise, like the designs of this thing and everything are just so cool.
Yeah.
Like it is really neat, but it is very seriously utopian, dystopian. I'm going to use that word a lot. Well, we know when it comes to stuff like this versus a master plan community. This is straight out of Orwell.
Yeah, exactly. And this is this is water, and those are people that are rowing, you know, trees, and those are the buildings. And look at the buildings are like odd shapes. See?
Yeah, it's an architectural wonder.
Yeah, exactly. And
you really got to wonder how they get light to these little trees down below, but I'm sure there's some sort of complex system that actually does deliver natural light into these things.
Yeah. We can see here, there's some space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, basically this is a huge city in one building. Okay. Yeah, and it has everything. If the people want to look into it, I encourage them to do so. So it's called The Line, and it's in Saudi Arabia. So this will be, they'll have everything there. Everything, obviously, everything. Schools, hospitals, ski resorts, hiking, theaters, whatever, sports complexes.
Well, and the premise of it is basically that it's like a line. It's super long, relatively thin. I'm not sure exactly how wide it's supposed to be, but it's
it changes a lot.
Yeah, and I mean they've scaled it down pretty substantially.
Exactly.
So
9
million people. 9 million people this thing was supposed to house originally. It's down to 300,000. But the outskirts of this is basically like the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
You know, on two sides, holding everything in, that is two walls that are the height of, I think, the old World Trade Centers, and they're glass encased. So basically it becomes a mirror on each side. So it's pretty much invisible looking at it from the outside. I believe it was actually Spock that developed this whole thing off of Star Trek, because I mean, that thing is otherworldly.
It's true. It's
Captain Kirk's going to be the mayor.
Yep. So
check it out, folks. Seriously, check it out. Look for the videos on YouTube. Check it out. It's crazy.
Exactly. Let's go through the advantages, right? So advantages, of course, you're gonna have everything there. That's everyone should realize that you're gonna have everything there, probably at a lower price, with the same or higher quality. Okay, so that will be really, really what people will want to go for. Okay, that will be the advantage. The problems or the disadvantage is obviously restricts freedom of movement. In Edmonton, they said no, but you understand, if you live in that line, let's say, for example, you probably want, it's so hot there, so you'll have to stay inside. It's a big place, but you will be inside, watched by the cameras and systems and artificial intelligence.
That's and that side of it is going to be almost an automatic. like the integration of technology and AI now coming into these it's irrefutable. Like it's going to be happening, right? It has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's got some very cool aspects to it as well. You know, I mean, walk up, it senses that you're coming in, unlocks your door, turn on the lights, crank the heat or the cooling or whatever it is to wherever you want, start playing your favorite music. Shoot, it'll probably start cooking you dinner. I mean, like all of this stuff integrated right in, and the stuff that you can do with the small spaces, which is super beneficial, but you know, once again, in a small space. Advantages, disadvantages.
Yeah. So we said the smart cities, the impact and the advantage is that AI and big data will aim to improve urban living, sustainability, and economic growth, obviously. Some people say that it's a real estate evolution, simply put, because demand is growing for properties with smart features and green buildings and eco-friendly designs. The line, so project. Also, some disadvantages is the workforce that is needed. It's this is a big project with, you know, the workforce should be really big. Also, there are a lot of people to work on this project, which is a problem. Also, how you're gonna house them. There's a little bit of thinking to do before starting the project, but I believe me too that at one point we will have to do this, for our civilization. Probably we'll have to do this.
Yeah, we have expanding populations, period, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been that way for centuries and centuries and centuries. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere. So, and just getting smarter about the planning of everything. That's almost an automatic. I don't think people used to travel for an hour for their jobs unless they had to walk to them.
Exactly.
And we kind of went that way, and then we went away from it for a while. We've got a community here, Inglewood, very cool, funky, trendy inner neighborhood, and they had the Lilydale chicken farm that was in the center of it. It was like people used to complain all the time, the smell and everything else, but it's because you lived near where you worked. Do you know what I mean? Like people didn't have to travel for an hour. This is really kind of, in many ways, it's kind of going back to the old principles of got to be somewhere, live somewhere close to it. I'm just taking it a step further.
Yeah, it's true. When I started to work in Canada, so my job was at least 45 minutes away from my home. I used to do security and security mostly. So I had to travel at least 45 minutes. Sometimes, a lot of times 1 hour, sometimes 1 hour and a quarter, 1 hour and a half.
No.
Back and forth, that's 3 hours. Probably 20% was 3 hours of road back and forth. No. And most of the time was 1 hour and a half to 2 hours back and forth. And that was like normal. That was normal for me. And now I couldn't do it. It's a lot of people work from home, and of course, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you have to go. But if you are in the service businesses, working from home is the best.
Well, and a lot of it has changed towards that, obviously, since COVID started. There seems to be a pretty massive push, and I think with very good reasons, that it kind of ends. People start going back into the office and stuff again, but with developing strategies and planning like this, they could have offices that just house, instead of one company, multiple companies.
Of course,
you could walk into so there. I mean, the main floor could be retail, shopping, all that sort of stuff. Second floor, maybe the same thing. Third, fourth floors could be office space. That's basically, if you're working for 15 different companies and you're within these buildings, you are no more than 5 minutes away from your kind of shared office space. So instead of just having, one spot per company, one company might have multiple spots. Not in your house anymore, there will be changing technologies and changing management structures that, basically employ companies to look after multiple companies on a workforce. They become basically brokers of employees. Well, I could definitely see things going that way. It's that kind of happy medium as well. Being close to work is kind of nice.
It is.
Wow.
It is.
Yeah. Gain a lot of time. And you become more efficient too.
Of course.
Productivity goes up.
Of course. So let's change the subject. Today, we had the Fed rate cut, 20.25 points. And obviously, I want to talk about it. It says that Powell flags careful, patient approach after Fed cut rates. So the central bank lowers policy rate to 4.5 to 4.75, which is a 0.25 points percentage drop. Trump elections victory clouds Fed's outlook. We will do a podcast about what happens with Trump in Canada next time.
That's
next
going to be
week.
a whole other one.
Yeah. We will only going to talk about that. And the financial markets still expect a year-end rate cut. Okay, 0.25. I also remember that Trump was critic about Powell, which was keeping the rates a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in
Trump
office, he wanted to, like zero. Trump wants 0.5 interest rate. Let's see if he gets it. Okay. But what do you think this will do, Chris, in the Canadian or U.S. real estate market in general? Let's say.
Yeah. So I guess my main question would be, and you're probably a little bit better to answer this one, I would say, is what will it end up doing to the economy as far as stimulating it? What will it end up doing to inflation, which would be kind of my primary concern with what goes here, and tariffs and everything else that are being threatened, all affecting that. And then where does the Canadian dollar go because of that? And there's definitely mixed opinions on that.
Exactly.
And my personal theory has always been, I shouldn't say it's my personal theory. By the economists that I follow, Canadian dollar is going to drop. And it's going to drop fairly significantly.
Yeah.
I was watching another one today, though, where they're pretty confident it's going to increase. And he had an interesting perspective on it. Sorry, I'm venturing a little bit into a future podcast here, but what happened last time Trump was in? Where was our dollar at then? What happened to our economy then? And that's actually probably a pretty good indicator of what may happen with his next.
Exactly. And we will also talk about Keystone and all that next time.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yep. Because people say it's done. It's abandoned. But that's the pipeline was almost functional 4 years ago. Like he was missing like 3 months. It was so bad.
So close.
But probably they will bring it to life. We'll do some research for next time. So the Fed raised interest rate decision, and trading economics. So the previous was 5, now it's 4.75, and the US dollar dropped a little bit if we compare it to the Canadian dollar because of this. Because when the rates drop, the currency takes a hit every time. Yeah. Every time. Sometimes it's very small. Like today was very small. It was very small. It was not even like from 1.395 went to 1.39. So it's not that big of a drop, but it was a drop. And what they try to do is bring the inflation towards a 2% target. Obviously, everyone knows that. but by dropping the rate, inflation usually goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the same time, they say they need to do this because of the economy. So we'll see what will happen. But for Canada, so the Canadian dollar rose a little bit, but just a little bit, and we will leave and we will see what will happen.
Yeah. Do you have a thought on which way that might affect the economy and inflation?
So I believe that the economy will continue to grow in the States.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's growing now. It's growing now. If we look at the trading economics, it's growing. Plus, Trump won, so it continues to grow. So the markets are at an all-time high. Bitcoin is at all-time high. And we're gonna do it next week. So I believe the inflation will stay around what it is right now in the United States.
Yeah.
In Canada, the same. I don't see inflation going up that much. So this 0.25 rate cut, I don't think it's going to change the markets a lot.
Yeah.
Or
fair.
I don't think so. It's just a blip, ping.
Yeah.
And also it was 2 days after the election, so I believe that is also included. The reaction that the markets had on November 6th, they were already expecting that 0.25 rate cut. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's the way Wall Street works.
Yeah.
So let's see Wall Street. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and that was the forecasted.
Exactly. So that's the point. When the markets reacted, they reacted also for the 0.25 rate drop. That's the point. They did it in the same time. Okay, so let's see what do a market update. So I wanted to show you this because twice you told me that there might be a problem with the investors that came to Alberta from other provinces, and they were buying pre-market condos, like 422 square feet and in the pre-market and for the rent. Yeah. And this is the article that I got, which is only a few days old, and that made me laugh because I thought it was you who wrote this. So if you think moms and dads with strollers are lining up at condo projects to buy a 500 square foot condominiums, they are not. Yeah. So what I see, it's the pre-market in Toronto. It starts to have a problem. There is a problem in Toronto with the condo sales.
Toronto's got a big problem. And they're going to have an even worse problem coming up.
So what can you just talk about a little bit about it? What do you think they have a big problem? I know you already talked about it, but maybe with this information, add some specifics.
Yeah, well, with all so we got a massive amount of condos that are under construction that are coming really close to completion in Toronto right now. So we got a massive amount of inventory that's about to hit the market, largely bought by investors and speculators who just, they buy for a deal and they buy contemplating a lot of equity from rising prices, just naturally rising prices and maybe even not so naturally rising prices. That are going to be sitting on a lot of stock there. And that stock, something has to happen with it. Rentals are down. Rental prices are down.
Yeah.
Sale prices are down.
Yeah.
They're at a very volatile spot right now. So I don't think it's going to get any better. And now construction is way down because of this looming situation, which means we might just do a complete flip on its head again several years after. So if you can carry your place with nobody in it for that amount of time, you could probably do really well. If you can't, you're hooped, and then everybody's hooped the other way again. I think the Toronto market particularly is going to be extremely volatile, like even compared to the world market for the next number of years, and particularly in that condo market. I think they're just hooped. They're hooped. And I think we run here in Calgary, run a little bit of a risk of going a bit of the same way too, because that mentality is coming out here now. It's kind of leaving a little bit, and it's heading up to Edmonton. So you guys got to be careful. You guys got to watch it up there. But yeah, I mean, everybody wants to make money while the hay. I can't remember how that expression goes, but make hay while the sun shines. And the builders and developers have been doing that. But we got some hail coming up.
Exactly. I thought that investors started to buy a lot of condos pre-market to rent them and to park their money. At one point, there was getting, everything was phenomenal. So the people who bought decided to buy even more. So they leveraged themselves with mortgages and leveraged. They borrowed everything they could at up to the years,
and largely over leveraged too. If I could interrupt for just a second, like faking incomes, faking documents, faking stuff all over the place. I mean, I've heard horror stories.
Yeah, me too.
Like how do you possibly do this? But they do.
Yeah,
one of those, you're in really deep trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And now what is happening is that the rents are going down. It starts with that, I believe. So the rents will go down, especially in Edmonton here. We rented a year ago, and the same unit. It was $2,400. Now it's $2,100.
Yep,
that's $300. It's a lot. It's not $62.
Yeah.
So the rents was slowly going backwards, maybe faster in the near future. We don't know. So I see this in Edmonton. You see that in Calgary. We see this in Toronto with this article. So what happened is that at one point, an investor who has 10 condos and can only rent 5, because of the price, because they are smaller. You gave me that example, smaller than 700 square feet, very small. At one point, they have to sell it, and that's when the market will start to be really volatile, and maybe the prices will go backwards.
Yeah, well, and you got to think about the multifaceted issues with owning, particularly a condo for rental. Condo fees have been going through the roof. That is money you don't get back. Special assessments are extremely common, particularly with envelope issues. Here in Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver was ludicrous. I don't know how bad Toronto was, but that is all money that you do not get back. That's been on top of interest to the banks. Like it's going to be pretty tough for a lot of these guys to make a dime on it unless they've been holding it for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Everyone who bought after 2022, I don't think they're going to make money on it.
Yeah, it's
hope they're not going to lose any money on it.
Yeah. If you bought in 2020 and sold in 2023, early 2024, in certain parts of the country, you did really well. Take your money to the bank, put it in something safe.
Yeah.
And just give yourself a pat on the back for your incredibly smart luck.
Yeah.
If you didn't, and you were one of the other sides, and you're buying potentially now as a longer term investment, or a short term flip, and not necessarily holding for long. Yeah, it's dodgy. It's Vegas. It's Vegas. You could come out really well, but you could lose pretty substantially, particularly if you bought 5 or 10.
Oh yeah. Because I'm giving this example because I have contacts and a lot of friends all over Canada, and some of them were telling me, go leverage yourself, buy this, leverage yourself. And I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm very happy I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no kidding. So I was in a developer's presentation where they're offering 3-year rental guarantee at a very decent amount on a unbelievable, ultra luxurious condos. Once again, super tiny. Looks great on paper. The reality not so great behind it. Two different things that could happen with that, because they were overcharging so much to begin with. The builders covered, even if they had to cover off these rental guarantees, but they're getting out of it last minute by offering last minute incentives for us not to be giving this guarantee for you, which is then leaving the buyers on the tag again. But let's not forget, there's been a number of developers that have just gone under. Like, what are you going to do for your rental guarantee on something you've purchased if that developer is under? Can you collect blood from a stone?
That's a good one.
You put a lot of risk in one guy who's giving you a good story.
Yep. And here, right next to my building, there is a building that was supposed to come up out of the ground, and it's only a hole now. Like, a big hole for the parking, and with sidings screwed into the earth. You understand what I'm saying? Like they prepare. Yeah. But that's theirs since I came, so 1 year ago when I arrived here in Edmonton. It's the same. And now, a few weeks ago, I was taking a walk and it's for sale. So the sign, which was announcing the building with the name and everything, is now for sale. That land is for sale. Downtown Edmonton.
Yeah.
You can't find anything in downtown Toronto, Vancouver, or Montreal, for sale. And here they sell it. So it is a different market, but it's I see it the same. The rents are going down, the prices are going down.
Yeah. What and that leaves another precarious situation too, is the banks that have funded these builds that have gone further than that in changing markets, where what percentage of the buyers are not able to complete anymore. Like where does that, it leaves a big chain of vulnerability, not just for the buyers, but also for the developers and also for the banks that have financed those developers, which means you, I, and you out there, perhaps needing some handouts from the government for banks, lenders that are ill-equipped for this, and their insurers and their investors, and there's a lot of money at stake there.
Yeah, exactly. And seeing this this article, so until now, the investors had fueled a construction boom in major cities. We talked exactly about this. But economists and realtors say that they are staying away from the market for a host of reasons. High mortgage costs, obviously, lower prospect of capital appreciations, so the value won't go up, and slower increases in rent, and looming uncertainty in the housing market. So this is pretty big. See, we're doing this for like, 6, 7, 8 weeks. And 2 months ago, this was not what I was feeling. Have you? Like, I have the impression that in the past 2 months, we see clearly that there's a change in prices, rent and buys.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at all the changes that have happened federally as well since then, from massive mortgage rate increases to sizable Bank of Canada prime rate decreases now, bond rates and how they affect everything. The U.S. The immigration policies from crazy high to crazy low. Now we're talking about negative population increases for Canada. the housing shortage and the crisis, and where
Yep.
that may actually end up being a little bit of the opposite now. The increases in affordable housing, the decreases in affordable housing because everything's going up so much, but then investors buying in to capitalize on that, which may end up now in decreases, which we're already starting to see the beginning of. There's a lot of reasons why why those numbers have gone up and down and up and down and drastically, multiple times. I think it's going to create a little bit of relief for renters and for housing costs. And I think that's going to leave a number of people who this is their retirement plan. And maybe you're not going to be retiring quite so early after all, because you don't have that equity in that property to bounce you back anymore.
It's true.
And how do you sell something that's got a negative cash flow attached to it?
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And see, this is CBC. Just found this article. Annual rental prices fell for the first time in over 3 years, but only in big cities.
Yeah.
So average cost of rent is down $50 a month from June's record high. So exactly my point. Exactly my point. Like 3-4 months ago, we had high rents, high prices, and now it's going down. See, exactly what we was talking about. So Canadian rental prices fell 1.2% in October compared to the same time last year. Okay. The decline is mostly concentrated in urban centers in Ontario and British Columbia, according to the National Rent Report released on Thursday by rentals.ca. Okay. And so the CBC News heard from seniors, young people, newcomers, and many others about their struggles to afford housing during the rental affordability crisis. So exactly when everyone was talking about this housing crisis this summer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that really fueled a lot of, particularly a lot of people in real estate who it's their job to get people to buy and sell houses. And they were excited by the prospect of hearing what you want to hear, in that it will do nothing but go up. You need to buy. You need to buy.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, history has shown whatever goes up goes down.
Of course, man. Of course. When I came here to Canada in 96, Quebec was getting out of one of the biggest recession in the history from 92 to 95. Since then, the prices of everything never got like backwards.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. We look in the States, prices of the homes, they're on a cycle, high, low, high, low, high, low. It's different. I also see that here in Alberta, it looks like that.
Yeah.
High, low, high, low. But in the Eastern, it was high, 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 high.
Yeah.
So at one point, it's only physics. There must be a low at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And this Sean Hildebrand, this guy, so he said he expects the trend will continue as more apartment construction is completed. Because remember, we had this crisis, so a lot of people was building, rents. And now there's also another thing. The immigration will stop, so we'll have less newcomers, and the apartment construction will continue. So I'm 100% with this guy. I believe the trend of lower rent prices will continue in the next months. Yes.
Yeah, I agree as well. Now for us here in Edmonton, Alberta, it is probably going to be much more moderate.
Yes.
Than in those major centers, Toronto and Vancouver. Like, you might as well just consider those a whole other country than the rest of us.
Exactly. Like Singapore and Hong Kong.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think we're going to see similar trends, just scaled down a fair little bit. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here versus what they're seeing there is because of exactly what you just said. Eventually it has to change out. And quite often the way it'll change out is I can't afford to live in this city anymore.
Yep.
I'm moving. That's where we have been doing our gains over the last little bit. The East used to shun us as though we were the ugly sister. Now we're kind of that pretty cheerleader, and people are coming out here, right? Like they want to.
Oh yeah.
They want to be out here. They want to see what it's like here. They want the open land. They want the big lots. And kind of the opposite stuff of the 15-minute city.
Yeah. Exactly.
Here, but.
And look at this, Chris. So we'll finish with this, with those two articles. So also the CBC. So Calgary red hot rental market may be cooling.
Yeah.
See, it's also in Calgary.
Yeah.
Shows prices softening as new units enter the market. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Less newcomers and new units on the market. Calgary rental market has gone through a major shift in recent years. Of course, it's comparable affordable compared to Toronto. We know that. See, typically August is the busiest rental month because that's where you get the surge, especially students who are looking for permanent rentals. And that didn't really happen in Calgary. Is that true, Chris? Did you have a less busy August?
So, yes. Straight up, on the resale market, absolutely, it was less busy. On the rental side of things, we've been talking to people where we used to have conversations of if you need to buy and sell, and you're planning on renting, well, you know what, you're not going to be much better because there's not a lot of rentals out there and you're going to pay a fortune. So you end up with a very good chance of being homeless. That flipped on its ear towards the late summer, early fall, where, sell now, go off and rent. It's actually not going to be too much of a problem. It's softened quite a bit. So you stand a good chance of it. And I think that kind of ties back in again with those completions that we were talking about from the, investors buying up properties that are just meant for rentals. Like, way more people buying rental purpose properties versus primary residence than we have seen in decades and decades and decades. We've got more purpose-built rentals, like buildings exclusively for the purpose of rentals, going up over the last little bit. And in the meantime, we've got way less student immigrants coming in for schools by like 50 to 60% decrease for our universities and our schools than we've seen in the past. And those people are not filling up those rentals anymore. You got to change in the dynamics to be sure. And we've got a ton of vacant properties still sitting out there
in Calgary
that have not been sold. Downtown condos particularly, but in the same spots that these brand new ones are going up for exorbitant pricing for really tiny spots, and they're sitting vacant
for sale.
Yeah, and we're in a housing crisis. Go figure.
Exactly. So in the same article, we see that interest shifts to Edmonton. This is what we're going to finish with. So, see, we expect that we're going to continue to see people come from the rest of Canada, particularly from more expensive markets like Toronto and Vancouver. Okay? And he added that the trend of driving or flying in search of cheaper rents has pushed people to another spot in the province, Edmonton. And we see this trend going down. We saw Vancouver last podcast. Now we saw Toronto and Calgary. Remember here. Toronto and Calgary. And we see that people also are coming to Edmonton. And that's the reason, Chris, that Edmonton leads rent growth among Canada's largest markets. We talk about the rents are going down, but Edmonton is the contrary. It's true that mine went down a little bit, and see here, they also noticed that a 2-bedroom now costs $1,703 monthly, which is a 0.8% decrease from last month. Okay, but if we look at the 1-bedroom, okay, so rent for 1-bedroom apartment, it's 7.8 year over year. So there's like a mixed reaction. So overall, the rent is growing. The rent prices are growing in Edmonton, but for two bedrooms are the same or going down a little bit.
Yeah,
which is in sync with the rest of the country. So, do you have any other point to make about why Edmonton is different than Calgary?
Well, and you know what? I don't think it's necessarily any different than Calgary, and I don't think Calgary is any different than most of the rest of Canada. It just seems that we're always a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Edmonton seems to kind of trail Calgary. If Calgary jumps up, Edmonton will jump up maybe to quite the same degree, and maybe not at the same time. It'll follow a little bit later, but it seems to typically happen. And we tend to follow the rest of the country. So even though we're in a high spot right now when they're in a low, well, we were in a low while they were in a high. We're just kind of following them like this, right? And it seems like we as a country kind of do the same as what the States has been doing.
Yep.
And we're just kind of a little bit behind them. So, it'll be interesting to see what changes happen in the States over the next little bit, particularly with the political regime change and everything else, are changes that are coming up and how their economy, their pricing, their changes, how that affects us, and whether we are, in fact, an island from the States or whether we are just another state of the States. And I say that a little facetiously, a little tongue in cheek, but I mean, I think we're more influenced by them than we're influenced by us.
Yes, I believe that too. Exactly. And it's easier to do business with the United States than in Canada, between provinces.
Yeah, how scary is
that?
Which
is, you understand? Which is sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. We actually got an approval on a pipeline from the States into a whole other country that we couldn't get going to the east. So
exactly.
Energy happened, but
Energy Est, which was the pipeline going to east. So everyone would make money, including Quebec, which will get a few billion more every year. And their answer is that it's too. I remember François Legault was saying that it's too dirty. It's too dirty, and they don't want to share the royalties.
Yeah,
which is like they are getting royalties. They are getting $11 to $17 billion every year, plus more. So, but they also wanted some royalties on the volume every day, like the spot, like whatever you sell, I have to have a few cents of it.
Yeah.
So, that's Canada.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll change.
Yeah. We got our issues.
Yeah.
We definitely do.
Yeah. Chris, I did everything I had to do today. Do you have something else to add?
Just that it is, once again, always a pleasure, Darius.
Me too, man. Me too. It gives me energy, and I hope it helps people. And, we'd like to thank you for your listening and your support. And we will see each other next week. Ciao, everybody.